Hey there, are you thinking about selling on Amazon's international marketplaces? And you're just kind of wondering, well, where do I begin? Like, which marketplace should I start with? Which one should I go to next? Like, what's kind of that general path? Well, my name is Kevin, and I'm from MaximizingEcommerce.com. I help people build e-commerce businesses that they can be proud of. Just walking here on this bridge, I was just thinking I'd just pull out my phone and talk about this. So, hopefully it's not too loud with the bridge right next to me with the traffic and whatnot. But one thing I was thinking about, when we think about like the path and, kind of knowing where to go to next, in a way, it's almost kind of like this river here. So this river, you see, it's the St. Lucie River. It splits two towns you probably never heard of, Stuart, Florida, and Palm City, Florida. And basically, I live out that way. I don't live on the water, but you could follow the river that way, and it's not too far from where I live. But then if we go that way, it'll take us out to the ocean. So in fact, you might even be able to see a couple boats going out that way, and then someone else is coming back in, and then there's a boat dock back there where it's like a public dock people come in and out of. But you're probably wondering, why are you talking about like a river and whatnot? Well, sometimes it's helpful just to know what is the path. So like, you can go this way and you'll get to the ocean in about 40 minutes, but it's not a direct path. In fact, there's like a right turn you have to take, and then if you miss that turn, you'll end up at Club Med, which, believe it or not, there's actually still Club Meds around, and there's one in the US, and it just happens to be up that way. But back to the actual point of selling internationally. I sell in several of the different international marketplaces, and what I have found works, and what I suggest for everyone is, if you're starting off, let's say on Amazon.com, so you're in the US or you sell from Australia or somewhere else, and you just decided, I'm going to start on Amazon.com. That's a great place to start. But then after you get to a point, you want to start selling somewhere else and start increasing your sales. Because, you've heard people say, you can go to Canada and sell to 15%. You can do, 20-ish% in Europe, or even more than that. You can do some in Japan, and, what are the pros and cons? And then, if you're like me, when you start giving yourself too many options, it just gets to be too much. And so instead of making it out into the ocean, you end up stuck at Club Med, which I guess there's nothing wrong with Club Med. But anyway, really nice boat there. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of digressing here. But point being, my suggestion is your path, if you're trying to get to, building an international business instead of, taking a boat into the ocean, what I would suggest that you do is start with Canada. So go from the US into Canada. And why is that? Well, it's English speaking. The culture is very similar to what it is here in the US, and the shipping rules are not overly complex. It's a fairly simple process to go into Canada. I have found what works in the US tends to work well in Canada for the most part. Culturally, they buy the same things, and it works. So it's a good place to go. Their sales tax is pretty similar to ours. In fact, I find it even simpler. So I would say Canada would be your first stop. So then what to do after Canada? Well, then I would go into Europe. Now you may be thinking, should I go into Germany or something? I heard the competition's less, maybe in Italy. Well, I would do the UK because they're also English speaking. It's easiest to go into English speaking marketplaces. And then from there, you could go into, let's say you go into Germany, Italy, Spain, France. You could do all of Europe. That's kind of a good path to go. And then from there, maybe consider Japan. I've started doing Japan. I'm not a huge fan of it. I've found it hasn't really worked well for me, but not to say it couldn't work well for you. And then from there, maybe consider Australia. Now, Australia, at the time we're recording it, I'm thinking about going into Australia, but the issue is you unfortunately can't do PPC. So it's kind of hard to control your traffic. But once they get that up and running, I definitely want to try out Australia. But so anyway, in closing, which is kind of long-winded, I'm just over here, just thought I'd pull this out, pull the phone out and talk a little bit about selling internationally. But my suggested path would be start in the US. Once you get the US up and running, if you could say, okay, check to that, then your next path is going to be to go to Canada, and then to the UK, and then the other European marketplaces, and then from there, potentially Australia, or potentially Japan, and continue to build your international empire. And if you're kind of curious, okay, well, what do I do to get started in Canada, since you're saying that's the first stop? Great question. You can go over to CanadaChecklist.com. I've put together a checklist, step-by-step, what the steps are to get going in Canada. Again, that's CanadaChecklist.com. And it walks you through everything you need to know. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. If you did, I'd love it if you can give a quick thumbs up. And if you have any questions about getting started, selling internationally, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to help out. It's kind of a little bit of a passion project of mine. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and I wish you the best of luck and best wishes on your e-commerce journey that takes you to wherever you're going. Take care. Bye-bye.